Hey folks, this is Melissa. This is the first trial of using our GoPro so that you see what I'm doing from my perspective rather than from the side or above or different camera angles or something, so bear with me. This is a Swedish knitting machine called a Favorit. They were made the early part of the 1900s. And I want to do different projects on this machine, and so the first project that I want to do is making these little bitty socks. I'm making a bunch of them and decorating a knitter's Christmas wreath with socks, Christmas ornaments, the round ones that I cover with something, lace that I'll show you how to do in another one, and also knitted cord. It's a pretty thing. Everything on it was made with the machine. I have retired all but 19 needles here at the front of the machine. When you retire a needle, the way that you do it is you take this hatch off. That opens up a little gap right there, and you can just push whatever needles you don't want in. Now, I do want that guy, so I'm going to bring him back out. But I went around and just moved around. And I went push, 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 push as I went, okay? And then you put this back. That's also where, if you need to change a needle, you go in through that port as well. Okay? So, now it's ready. Do you see it knitting? See? And because there are no side cams, I can come right back and go back and forth. First thing I want to do is I want to cast on. I'm just using junk. And as with all latch needle casting on, I can do it on every other needle. This machine does not do well with multiple yarns that need to be knitted all at one time, such as a lot of tucking techniques, tuck stitch techniques for lace. And so you see that I'm casting on with just a thin thread and just a couple or three of those at a time. I don't think that I would recommend using the casting on bonnets that rely on the little rings. I don't think that would work well. When you're casting on in the round, there's a round basket that is used, but I don't want to use something round when I'm working in the flat, so I'm just using this method. Now I want some waste yarn. It's just a length of waste yarn, so I'm just letting it hang down here, but I will thread it in the traditional manner. So I come up, there's a little gap. I've left a little gap. I didn't push the knitter all the way onto the desk. Thank you, Anne, for telling me that. And then I go in through the top with the long threading and catch it. It's got a hook on the end. And bring the thread up. At that point, I'm ready to thread top side. So I go through a hole that's right here underneath and all the way through to the back. And then my yarn carrier is right there, and I need to thread through the feed and the eye above it. At that point, I'm fully threaded. So I come here, catch that in my hand, pull on this thread a little bit just to give myself hand tension. There's a tension spring here, and there's some discs here, but I found that they are too tight for my purposes. So there's pass 1 of every other cast on, okay, and then pass 2, and we're knitting. So I'm going to knit a few rows of waste yarn. I will put the pattern to this in the YouTube video notes. You don't want to try to read my handwriting. Okay, that's the last row we're going to knit. And so I'm going to pull my waste yarn out, and see, and I'm going to just tie this at the back so that it's out of my way. I frequently get in my own way. And I want to put a row of Ravel cord. Ravel cord allows you to separate your waste or scrap yarn from your working yarn. You do have to have a non-live edge when you separate. What that means is that when you separate and you're at your working thread, you don't want it to start unraveling. So what we're going to do is a hung hem structure. Now, I'm going to use this crochet cotton. I thought I had another length of it. Oh no, I remember what I was doing. And notice with this machine, there are no side cams. And I'm in a free area anyway, but I'd be able to just about do this regardless. It's a really nice feature of the machine that you easily move clockwise or counterclockwise. When you're engaging needles to bring them out, you need to go in the direction clockwise. So think of clockwise as your major knitting direction and counterclockwise as an option that you have. For flat knitting, of course, you have to have it half the time. So I'm going to come over here because I want to end up on the right side for no other reason than my preference. And I'm going to just thread top side. So under the handle, through the back. There's the end. Up through the yarn feed and through the eyelet. And it's threaded. I won't write much, but not a ton, because it's just going to be one row. And then here we go. Hang on a second. I want that back on. Sorry. I have a hot rodded yarn feed. It's got a slot in it, and the thread came out of the slot. And I spotted it in time to where I didn't have to start over. As long as I get this one stitch back on. Okay, so see where it came out here. And so I'm gonna re-thread back in. That's a danger of doing this. I did it so that I could do stranded color work, which is awesome, but I need to not, you know, get out of the yarn carrier. So let's try again. And because I pulled some stuff out, let me just fix my own mistakes here. Because we're doing this new camera, this is about take 8 of this little video, and I am thoroughly sick of it by now, and I can't remember what I've said. So I'm going to soldier on as best I can, rather than starting over, because I'm starting to confuse myself as far as what's been said and what hasn't. So I'm making stitches there. And I'm going to push back. And I'm going to latch that one over. And I'm going to latch that one over. I'm going to bring that one over that didn't quite make it. Looks like it got caught in the hook. And that will function as a Ravel cord. So now I want to cut it. Get it out of my way. Tie it back behind so that I don't get tangled in it. And I want to start with my working yarn. When you work with working yarn, you put the cone on the floor. And so I'm going to put red. I've got red down there on the floor. Okay. And you come up through, there we go, through here. As before. Down you go through the middle. Look at these jiggles. Up you come through the middle. Get your end. Okay. from front to back. Up through the yarn feed. I'm doing this the way you would do it. I probably should have changed back. We made that one with the slot because I'm working with stranded knitting color work like Fair Isle and other color traditions, but I didn't need it for this. Okay, now I want to get going with my working yarn. So row 1, and we're good. And I'm going to tension down here, come back, row 2, row 3, row 4. I'm going to do 20 rows, row 5, row 6, row 7, row 8, row 9, row 10. And as with weaving, if you always start as best as possible on one side where you know what side you started on, then you'll know whether you're on odds or evens depending on which side your work is at when you stop. I saw that this stitch did not make, so I'm going to make it. Now, you see how I'm futzing around with it? That's because these needles are loose and flat. And I'm convinced that picking up my skills with flatbed tools, it'll actually knit that, but well, getting better at flatbed tools such as transfer tools is the solution to this. But I'm not very good with flatbed tools because I'm not a flatbed knitter of any experience at all. And so, I'm not going to try. I mean, it's bad enough watching that I just did without, you know, watching me use a transfer tool. But if you don't know what it is, that's a transfer tool. That's 2 at a time, but it has to be the right intervals, and that's 2 close together, and that's 1 at a time. Okay, now, a hung hem, you knit twice as much as you want, and then you hem it together. So that's 10 rows high, meaning I need to knit another 10 because that's the back. So we're at 10. Now let's do 11. Oops, sorry. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and el numero last. And I'm going to go way out of my way because now I need to hang the hem. There's my scrap yarn. There's my Ravel cord. And there's my working yarn. And what you do to hang a hem is you hang each stitch all the way across on the needle that made it. So that was the first one. And I'll come back and get that one. So I go to the second. Needle 2. 3. 4. I'm hanging the bar. I like to hang to the bar. I can't see the other. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. Whoop, whoop. I don't like this tool. I've misplaced my favorite dental tool. 11. 12. This is too sharp for me. I split yarn. 13. 14. 15. 16. 17. It gets kind of cozy down in here. 18. And 19. Then when I knit, I'll hold this one over, okay? What I want to do at this point, see, I've got 2 on each one because I'm hemming. I've folded it over and I'm hemming. It's folded onto itself. So here, I'll come tension my yarn by pulling on it down here, tension my yarn, come back here, and give it another little, if I can find it, another little snug. And it's hung. It's on the other side because that's the front, but you see that little hem? It's going to be just like that, except it's not white. I want to change colors here. I have a red cuff on a little cream white body because I think that you'll be able to see the white better. Normally you would weave in ends, you know, by taking your end and just do that and just knit it back in. But remember, I told you this machine doesn't particularly like to do a whole lot of stitches, and I don't particularly want to do 15 takes of this video, and so I'm not going to do I'm not going to knit them in because I can always sew them in. Now, over to the floor we go. And let's bring up that cream. Get that horrible thing out of the way. Through here. Down. Find it down there. Up. I want to be over on this side, so up and over and down. Okay. Now I want to knit the body. So I'm going to come over here, and once that first needle has caught right there, I'm kind of safe. This is the gig with all of these knitters, okay? And I can, you know, stop tensioning and that sort of thing. And here we go. And now we're knitting with the cream. So 1, I'm going to go in and live dangerously and weave this in. So come back. Two. Remember that the side that's toward you is the back or wrong side of the material. And in this case, the structure of these little socks is that they're sewn up the side. And so, which is a time-honored technique for making small things on a bigger circular. You can also knit in the round and make small things, but you can also knit in the flat and then sew them into tubes. In this case, you can have a lot of stuff on the inside because these are just ornaments for a little wreath that I'm making for Christmas. My knitter's wreath. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. I'm going to do 15. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. I'm going to do 16 because I want to be on that other side. 16. Help me remember when I write that down that it's 16. Let me put my notes here. 20 row hung hem, 16 row body, heel, 10 row, foot, toe. Okay. That's why you don't want to see my handwriting. Okay, at this point, I want to turn a heel. When you turn a heel, in this case, I'm going to make the heel over here, then make the foot, and then make the toe over here, and then when it's sewn together, it puts those in the right place. I did 19 needles because I want a little selvage there. So I'm going to take the first needle out of work, and then I'm going to do 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then I'm going to bring all the others out. So that is my heel knitting area right there. Okay? Needles that are out won't knit. So 1. See, they're the only ones that knitted. I bring that one out because I'm doing the reduction. 2. Bring that one out. 3. This is turning into an area that's bigger because I'm only knitting there. So I'm going to start putting my thumb in there to tension. And yes, that is exactly correct that the needles that you pull out will have a loop and one skip over them. That gets knitted back in later, but that's exactly what happens. You just don't see it as readily on the circular. What happens when these little things jam up is that when I put that pressure in, I might accidentally pull one of these needles back just a hair, and the tolerances on these are very, very tight, and so the mechanism will bump into it. Okay, what you saw that I just reached in and pulled this back because I kind of knew what had happened. So see that, watch, I pull that one out. When I do that, it might have brought it back a little bit, and it won't knit that way. I mean, it just won't move, and so you need to be aware that these are kind of fussy. This is the last pass because I'm going to knit down to 2. 2. Now I want to start putting needles back into work in order to do the increase. And so I like to wrap. I do a wrapped increase almost without fail. So I put it in and wrap it. I like the way that, let me see if I can find one that has that nice, it makes oh, that's the back side. It makes a nice seam through here. I think it just looks tidy, and I think that structurally is a little bit better than other. Faster. So increase 1. Sorry. Now I put in that. I always work on the side that my yarn is on. I decrease on the side that my yarn is on, and I increase on the side that my yarn is on. I can't keep up with 2 of these and 1 of those unless I just have to. A friend of mine, Heidi Kapatos, did a study of a lot of manuals for the antique and vintage knitters, and the decreases were pretty much all done the same. It was the increases, this part of it, that varied. Okay, so I've gotten it. There we go. What I've learned is to lighten up. It's not more or forcing that'll do it with these knitters. It's less. It's as gently as you can get it to work and still make the little stitches. This is my last one on this side, because remember I started with that far right one out. And into the little heel I go. Now this is the last one on this side. I accidentally pushed that. Okay, now all of them back in. Here, I'm going to need to wrap on the last one, otherwise we can't make that stitch. Into that little area with my thumb because it's still loose. And we're back to body knitting, okay? But do you see the little heel that I've knitted? See? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's the foot, or the shuffle, okay? Once again, I need to turn a toe. So this one out, because I want that edge. I've got to be able to sew, okay? So that's like a sticky edge, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Out, 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 out. Back. One. Start doing the decrease. That needs to stay out. Did you see how that thread brought it back? Two. Somebody locked up on me. It's the sound of the favorite in the wild. It's probably this one. And it was. So I've got a stitch that didn't make there while I was monkeying around. So I take that, I draw it over that, continue with my life. That's a little bit loose and I would need to fix that if this were going to be a functioning. Matter of fact, I can knit it in over here. There, we'll just do that. You wouldn't do that with a sock you were going to wear, but we're not going to wear it, are we? There we go. Something about this is suddenly problematic. Let's get that again. Sorry about this. Everything was fine and then it wasn't. I think I've got a needle that's messed up. Okay. I'm not even concerned about that. This needle has developed an issue. It's the same one that caused the problem before. So we're going to get through this. See that guy? Now, there is something I can do. I'm not going to fix those stitches because I don't have to, okay? But if this needle presents a problem one more time, we'll replace it, okay? See, it's fine that way. So let's just keep going. Down to 2. Now I'm going to start doing my increase. So wrap. I'll be glad when my needles get here from Germany. I'm working with old manky needles. And I'm going to put, also you can use Gearhart rubber needles, but I didn't want to do that for this. I don't know why. I probably should have, but I didn't. And so these are ancient needles and just not in very good shape. Last one on this side. Last one on this side. And now I'm done. Okay, I'm going to, at this point, give myself grafting thread, a length, and now I want to put in something that allows me to easily see where I'm working. So I'm going to use this orange down on the floor. What I usually use is a thick white tam, but I don't want to use white on white and try to sew, and I don't see right offhand. I've got cones and cones and cones of tam. I use Cancun, which is a heavier weight than sock weights, because it holds my grafting stitches very firmly together. But since I don't see any, we'll just use this orange. I think it's also tam, but it's thinner. Thread, thread, make sure it's in there, because it'll come right off if it's not in the yarn feeder. And remembering that I need to tension in there, because that's looser. It's a bigger area. And I actually didn't bring these back in. That doesn't matter because it's waste yarn. See that, remember? So what I'm going to do is come back here. That's a stitch I'll pick up in just a second. Go right there. If I were going to put ribbing, not at the toe obviously, but if I were going to put ribbing and this were a cuff, what I would have done is dropped a stitch just like that and then laddered it up, like just lift it up and then put it back on the thing, because it'll work just fine. It makes beautiful ribbing. Okay, now let's come off the machine. And let's fix that. So this is my latching up hook. And I need to go under here. Under, and I always go down. I don't try to catch the first live stitch. I go down to where I know I've got a good stitch. you're only going to have to latch up another one or two. And meanwhile, you're not kind of awkwardly making your drop worse. So, there. 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 And one more. And there. And now I'm gonna push forward. And since I only grabbed one of the waist yarn, I'm gonna seal it. Okay. And use your needle to your advantage. Okay. So look what we have. We have a cuff, we have a heel, we have a toe, we have a foot. What we're going to do now is we're going to separate using that Ravel cord. So we're going to find where I loosely tie the Ravel cord and get the end. Then I'm going to get the other end and pull it. That's where, remember when we had that problem and I split it? That's what that is. And look. Let's get this. This is, you know, if this is not Hey Presto and you're Roxo the Magician, it's always possible to have messed up on what caught what. And so if you'll take your time when you take the Ravel cord out and take a look to see if you didn't miss one, okay? Because I think I may, no I didn't, but it kind of looked there for a second like I missed one. And this would have been my opportunity to just easily latch it up and snick it with a needle and be done. Now, since this is going to be sewn shut and nobody on earth is ever going to wear it, I can tie these ends. And that one I'll probably tie it right there. Now, get rid of that. Now we're starting to look like something. So,